without exception, no matter what job you have, what role you serve, what expertise you've developed, even what standing you've built within your sphere of influence, there's something in the works that could make it all seem obsolete in a flash.
That's absolutely true. The pace of change in the world is exponential. Individuals have to have both the skill set and the mindset to constantly reinvent themselves and to continuously add value in all that they do. I mean, think about this. When you think about 65% of the jobs that will be available for grade school kids don't even exist, don't even have a title or a name. So how do I reimagine and reinvent myself and make sure that I'm in this constant mindset of learning, unlearning, and relearning to add value in all that I do? Anticipate the possibilities of what the world is going to look like. Take some risks, take some chances, but most importantly, don't be afraid to fail. And as long as you try more times than you fail, you will always be successful.
You are listening to Personalization Outbreak, a podcast about the collapse of traditional corporate standards in today's more personalized world. I'm Glenn Llopis. I'm a leadership strategist, author, contributor to Forbes, and founder of the Leadership in the Age of Personalization movement. On this show, I'm interviewing executives across multiple sectors to find out how the balance between standardization and personalization can exist.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Personalization Outbreak Podcast. This series that we're about to embark upon is going to be focused on make reinvention your superpower. But this is going to be a very special series because we're going to help people escape career quicksand and help them revive their future. We're going to talk a little bit more about what all this means throughout the series. But with the special series, you should expect special people, special guests like Robert Johnson, who's our guest today. See, leaders who have not only experienced reinvention, both personally and professionally, but these are leaders who also know that self-directed reinvention is non-negotiable. They understand why there is an urgent need for people to deconstruct what they've become to achieve in a world as it was. But they also understand the importance to reconstruct who they are in order to be ready to thrive in a future that's still unclear. Our special guest today is my dear friend, Robert Johnson, president of Western New England University. Now, Dr. Robert Johnson has had a 15-year run as a university president, and he understands the dynamic world of work for today's earners and learners, and the importance of preparing this next generation of leaders to thrive in a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Now, I've known Robert for several years, and he's a very special individual, and you're going to feel his voice, and he's going to make you feel like you have endless opportunity, because he brings insight, forward thinking, and he helps future-proof leaders to learn lessons on how they can find success in their careers and significance in their life. But before we get started, please click the like button below, share it with your colleagues, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and social media at Glenn Llopis. Robert, my dear friend, thank you so much. You know how I feel about you, and it's just an honor to have you part of this special series on how to help people make reinvention their superpower. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you, Glenn, and it is a pleasure to be with you today. And I so much appreciate our friendship, both personally and professionally. You are a good man and doing great things.
Well, thank you, Robert. As we know in this journey of reinvention, it can't happen without other people, and you've been an instrumental part of my life. In my career. So thank you.
Thank you.
So Robert, let's have some fun.
Okay.
I'm going to share a few statements with you about kind of the mindset, kind of the current state that we're in. And I'd love for you to provide your wisdom after each one of these statements to get the conversation warmed up. How's that?
Wisdom you want, eh?
Okay, well, hey, you're fueled with wisdom, and you've imparted quite a bit on me to make me a better person. So here we go. Here's number one. Without exception, no matter what job you have, what role you serve, what expertise you've developed, even what standing you've built within your sphere of influence, there's something in the works that could make it all seem obsolete in a flash. At least that's how it feels.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's absolutely true. The pace of change in the world is exponential at this point in time in our history. We have new paradigms coming and going continuously, unlike anything we've ever seen before. When we think about the pace of change with new technologies, new modalities of teaching and learning, of getting work done, individuals have to have both the skill set and the mindset to constantly reinvent themselves and to continuously add value in all that they do. I mean, think about this. When you think about 65% of the jobs that will be available for grade school kids don't even exist, don't even have a title or a name. That's pretty challenging. If you think about the world of work today, our graduates at Western New England and all college graduates today, having upwards of 17 jobs in 5 different industries, and 3 of those industries do not exist. The fact of the matter is that this generation of young people, they change jobs every 18 months. AI comes along, and all of a sudden, work that seemed relevant for the individual to do no longer has relevancy. So how do I reimagine and reinvent myself and make sure that I'm in this constant mindset of learning, unlearning, and relearning to add value in all that I do? So COVID came along, changed the way that we did work. AI came along, is changing the way that we did work. 15, 16, almost 20 years ago, social media came along. It has evolved the way that we do work. So we have to have this constant mindset of evolution and never, ever, ever settling for the way that I've always done my job is the way that I must continue to do my job. I've been a university or college president for 15 years now. And if I'm still doing my job today the same way I was 3 or 4 years ago, I'm obsolete because the world around me is changing at a hyper pace, if you will, in terms of new paradigms coming and going.
See, that's what I've always loved about your future-proof thinking, Robert, because you've accepted the fact that all these things are happening and you're wanting to do something about it rather than just wait to be forced to reinvent. That's why I've often said that without strategy, change is merely substitution, not evolution.
That's right.
And for those that have gotten stuck in substitution mode, they're just not evolving, nor do they have the discipline to reinvent, that they're always going to be having challenges getting out in front of change before circumstances force their hand.
That's right. It really is all about having a mindset. You hear me talk a lot about skill set mindset. So you can be proficient in whatever your chosen profession happens to be, but you have to have this mindset of understanding that the job that you have today will be very different a year, 2 or 3 from now. I tell our students, we're preparing you for your first job, and you have to invent every job thereafter. It really is about a mindset of reinventing yourself, trying to skate to where you think the hockey puck is going to be, anticipate the possibilities of what the world is going to look like, take some risks, take some chances, but most importantly, don't be afraid to fail. And as long as you try more times than you fail, you will always be successful.
Robert, why do you think that there are let me step back. I've done enough work with enough people to know that people know that the world around them has changed.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're there.
Mm-hmm.
But why is it that they can't always see the opportunity to reinvent? I mean, they know they have to, but why don't they?
Fear. I think fear is the predominant factor, the fear of the unknown, the fear of if I try this, I may not be good enough. The fear of if I try this, I might fail. So I feel comfortable where I am. And, I took a course, a certificate course at MIT on neuroscience and leadership. And this idea of brain science and fight or flight is real. So if people don't want to fight and if they don't want to flee from their situation, then they go into a cocoon where they perceive it to be safe. And we all know people like that, right? We know people who have been on a job for the last 20 years. They've never thought about every 2 or 3 years what they need to do differently or how they may evolve. And they look up in 20 or 25 years will go by and you'll ask them the question, are you happy in your job? No. Well, why don't you make a change? Well, I never really thought about it. We must continuously have this mindset of what's next. When you take a job today, you need to be asking yourself, how is this job, how is this opportunity preparing me for whatever is next? And seek out opportunity. Be open to the conversation because you never know how things will evolve. And if there's a specific goal or dream that you may have, you have to put it out into the universe. Paul Coelho in the Alchemist, he talks about living your dream and that sort of thing. And he says, if you really believe in something, and I'm totally paraphrasing, and it's something that you want, if you put it out there, the universe will conspire to make it happen. But you first must have the mindset that you're going to pursue change, that you're going to pursue doing something different, that you're going to pursue reinventing yourself as a constant state.
But you know what I love about what you said is that means we now have to be not just self-directed, but we have to take ownership of all this responsibility. And that's not the way it's always been. It's always been that I need to follow a certain playbook that's handed to me at my job. I have to follow a specific set of rules. I'm not saying that we shouldn't follow rules, but Glenn, they constrain us, don't they?
They do, Glenn. So you know what that is, what you just described? That's standardization.
I was hoping we'd go there.
That's standardization. That is, here's the playbook. We're just gonna go down that road one step after the other. And I'll go back, I won't tell you how many years, but when I graduated from college, people of my generation, you get a job, you stay on that job 5 to 7 years, you wait on a promotion, and you might work for the same company for the next 20 or 25 years. You might change companies, but it was going to pretty much be in the same industry. And then you retire 25, 30 years later, and the path was set. That is a thing of the past. It no longer exists. When I came out of college, unless you were in certain fields, engineering, a doctor, and a handful of others, there was no need to go back and get additional education or training to be relevant in the marketplace. Now you have to be in this constant state of learning new things and unlearning some of the things that are no longer relevant so that you can embody whatever the new happens to be and to be relevant. And you have to take ownership of that with intentionality. You have to have this mindset. It's skill set and mindset. It's no longer just skill set, just being the best accountant, doctor, lawyer, preacher, or teacher. It's also having the mindset that whatever I'm doing today is going to be very, very different 3 or 4 years from now. Not 5 or 10 years from now, 3 or 4 years from now at most.
And this is why I dedicated Make Reinvention Your Superpower to my now 9-year-old daughter. 9-year-old daughter.
Yes.
Why? Because she's going to have to reinvent her entire career.
As a way of life.
Exactly. As a way of life.
Right.
And if not, the marketplace is going to pass her by, and she won't be the significant individual that I know that she's capable of being and that she wants to be. So what does this mean? That as employers, we have to pay more attention to what matters to the individual, which takes me to this next statement. Just because a particular expertise, job, or skill might not be in demand in a few years doesn't have to mean that you as a person are not in demand. See, there's many threats, but it's not the threats themselves that make us vulnerable. It's actually our inability to respond, be nimble, demonstrate resilience, and reinvent. Again, reinvention is a dependency now. It's no longer an option.
That's right.
Why is this so important? Especially since we're going to have to create our own opportunities. This is not going to be a world where we wait for someone to call us.
No.
We have to create those opportunities.
Yeah, we have to have this. And I keep coming back to mindset.
I love it.
And it's mindset. It is a mindset that we have to have in the workplace as workers, as managers, as leaders. And we also have to allow people the freedom to do that on their job, which means that in terms of how I lead and what I expect from my team members, the only thing that is a constant is outcomes and return on investment, the value added that they're bringing. How they get that work done needs to be less important to me, but the fact to give them the freedom to have this mindset to reinvent themselves continuously so that they're always looking forward, to ask themselves, what's next? How can I do my job differently? How can I step back and say, oh, AI is all of a sudden here. How can I do my job differently? And what does that mean for me in the workplace? And I, as a manager and as a leader, I have to be flexible enough. I have to be agile enough. And I talk a lot about learning agility to allow that to take place within the organization and among individuals. Because learning agility is a mindset that is the new constant. And when we think about a world that is constantly changing at a rapid speed, this notion of being in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world is the new normal. When I started, when I first became president some 15 years ago, 70 to 80% of my job was pretty steady as she goes. And only about 15 or 20% was ambiguous. Now we're in a world where 85% of my job in terms of working, managing, and leading is in ambiguity. And only about 10, 15% of it is steady as she goes. And if you're going to be in a world, if you're working or managing or leading in a world where ambiguity is the number one thing in your environment, if you don't have an agile mindset, if you do not have the skill set to think about how do I learn, unlearn, and relearn as a steady state so that I can add and create new value in all that I do, you become obsolete. And you've heard me say this before, with that obsolescence, you have to adapt or die. I grew up in Detroit, Glenn, and when, Henry Ford created the Model T Ford and the automotive industry, they used to have planned obsolescence, right? So they design a car and, after 3 or 4 years, they redesign it so that it looked obsolete so that people would want to get rid of the old car and buy a new car. Well, there's no longer planned obsolescence. If you don't reinvent yourself, you are obsolete. If you do not have an agile mindset, you are obsolete. And you have to adapt or die. What is your personal brand? And your personal brand today, it better be different 3 years from now. Otherwise, you're obsolete. You haven't adapted and you're going to die. You're going to become irrelevant.
So how do employers adapt to this new world? Because let me just share this with you. Some new research from my organization. 79% of managers believe that working and learning environments were not designed for individuality. The second, 78% of managers do not believe that they've ever been taught or nor are they rewarded to be agile, transparent, resourceful, or authentic. In other words, these are words now that we use, but yet we're not being rewarded to do that because of the old standards that try to control you, which are now creating more resentful employees at work.
That's right. So
what does an employer do?
So Glenn, one of the things employers should do is think about the one thing that does not show up on their balance sheet. And it doesn't matter if you're in the service industry or if you have a product. Human resources. people. So you rewind, you go back to a standardization type of economy, mechanistic economy, and it was always about assets and equipment and that's a capital,
Right.
physical capital, machines and that sort of thing. Well, the world has changed exponentially, and 80% of a company's asset, even if they are in the manufacturing space, is people. It's human capital. And though it does not show up on the balance sheet, we have to begin to think about, as organizations and as leaders, how do we essentially work, manage, and lead as though it is on the balance sheet? And how do we afford people the opportunity to have these personalized experiences and give them the latitude to do that? And sure, there are a handful of things as it relates to compliance and several other things that people must do, but we have to operate with the end in mind. So instead of telling people, this is what I want you to do, and here are the 10 steps on how you must get it done, we have to say, here's what I would like you to do. Here are the parameters. Have at it.
Well, and what this requires is for people to let go.
That's right.
But it also requires a major paradigm shift, which is they themselves need to reinvent, which goes back to what you said.
Right.
Do they have the mindset or the skill set? Managers are saying they're not even close. So what's happening? More and more people are stepping into the sand and adapting their ways to the corporate ways because they don't know any way out of those corporate ways because they have forgotten how to have new ideas after being trained that success depends on how well they execute old ideas. They're stuck in career quicksand. Go.
And then that career quicksand is what stifles organizations and ultimately puts them into a position that they no longer exist. And Glenn, you've heard me say this before. So when was the last time you went to Blockbuster?
It's been a while.
It's been a while, right? Okay. These little things here, this little smartphone I have more computing power on this smartphone than Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton had when they were presidents of the United States with the entire apparatus of the United States government. Okay. So, how we get work done now is very, very, very different. No, you haven't been to Blockbuster lately. Amazon, started out as a bookseller. Now is a $1 trillion company? They still sell books, but not much. Okay. Google. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. So we have to be of this mindset of adapt or die and be asking ourselves, what is the new business model that can put us out of business? And when we discover that, that's what we need to adopt as our business model so that we can advance and stay ahead of the curve. And by the way, it's kind of like in order to outrun or outpace the competition, you don't necessarily have to be best in class. You just have to be better than everybody else. Okay. And there's a difference, and the story. You got 3 or 4 people out in the woods there and they're walking around, they come across the bear. The inkling of most people would be, I need to outrun the bear. I don't need to outrun the bear. I just need to outrun the 3 or 4 people who are with me. Right? And if I do that, I'm going to be ahead of the curve. I'm going to remain competitive because they're going to get gobbled up because they're running from the bear instead of understanding that they're in this competitive environment and they have to not only understand the pace of change, but they have to change at a faster pace than their competitors do.
So with that in mind, let's go back to adapt or die, because this is a really good segue to skill number 3 of make reinvention your superpower, which is pursue. And that's your call to action here is you either have to adapt or die. And this requires you to pursue what you've discovered and know about yourself. But before we dig deep into those ingredients that require us to pursue. I'd like to just give a quick high-level recap of what the 6 skills are to make reinvention your superpower. Number 1 is discover. Harness your natural curiosity to discover something new. I mean, this is something that you've been talking about now ever since I met you. You need to know. You have to ground yourself in an open, always learning mindset. That's part of that mindset that you're talking about earlier, Robert. We have to be in a constant, steady state of learning, unlearning, relearning, repeat. Pursue. It's about rev up the engines of your ambition, which we're going to talk about in a moment. 4 is build, take action with and for others. 5 is trust. Cultivate a deeply rooted sense of yourself and your ability to elevate others. And finally, we need to lead. We need to use our new profound influence now that we've reinvented ourselves to strengthen our purpose and to make the world a better place. So, Robert, let's tackle skill number 3, pursue. I'll share with you the ingredients, and I'd love for you to give me a story or perspective around them.
Sure.
Again, pursuing, so important. How do we pursue? How do we rev up our actions in support of our ambitions?
Mm-hmm.
So the first ingredient, we must maintain an all-encompassing will to act. An all-encompassing will to act. Robert, how do we elevate the boldness of people? Because the luxury of time is over. We need to be bold.
Mm-hmm. Well, so when we think about this whole idea of pursue, and how do we get people to be bold, to act? I think about that Lexus commercial, the pursuit of excellence. Okay, I'm not building an excellent car. I'm in the pursuit of excellence. And the pursuit of excellence, implicit in that statement, is once I achieve a certain level of excellence, I'm looking for that next level of excellence. The next level of excellence. It's a constant pursuit. So whatever I think that I have achieved today, it's like, okay, what's next? And I think part of what holds people back is that most individuals don't think of themselves as a commodity, as a brand. And every brand has a value proposition, that makes them valuable to the world. And you said something earlier. You said, your job may change and may no longer have any value, but that doesn't mean that you don't have value. Well,
exactly.
You only have value if you have this mindset that you're going to be in the pursuit of excellence. What is my personal brand, and how do I continuously evolve my brand? And what are the things that I've learned that are no longer relevant that I need to unlearn? And what are the new things that I need to learn in order to make sure that I'm relevant for today? And how do I need to start thinking about future things I will have to unlearn because I'm trying to anticipate the future? AI just hit mainstream society. Okay, and everybody was all of a sudden going bonkers about, how do we use this technology? But what about 5 years from now? How do I need to evolve my personal brand? What's my elevator pitch right here, right now, so that I'll be ready for what's next? I think it is so important, and I keep coming back to this: learning agility and skill set and mindset. So if you have learning agility, you have a skill set, and if you have the mindset, then you're going to be in this constant, you're going to have this continuous mentality of reinventing myself, reinventing my skills, reinventing my mindset to make sure that I'm relevant, not only now, but for the future. How do I skate to where I think the hockey puck is going to be? And wherever I think the hockey puck is going to be, what skill set will I need in order to be relevant in that type of environment?
So let's talk about the hockey puck then, because this is number 2. Follow your curiosity to seek out precise answers.
That's right.
Explore that a little bit with us. Why is that so important that we follow our curiosity to seek out precise answers? Because if we know ourselves, we should be able to trust ourselves to know where the puck's going.
So what I will say is that, your premise is that we know ourselves. I don't know how much time most people take to really know themselves and to be, and maybe they know themselves, but are they honest with themselves? Know thyself, to thine own self be true. Right? I mean, knowing yourself is important, but then you have to be honest with yourself. And when I do that, what do I discover in this pursuit of curiosity and what have you? Oh, Robert, I have some shortcomings. There's some things I don't do so well. Now, once I say that to myself, I have one of two choices. I can consciously do something about it, or I can say, oh, well, I hope things work out. We'll see what happens. And, you have a choice. You can wait and see what happens, or you can make things happen. And so I think to be emboldened, you have to have this mindset of saying, how do I make things happen for myself? I have deficits. I have some additional skills or some new skills that I need to learn in order to be relevant in the world of work, in the world of leadership, in the world of entrepreneurship or innovation or whatever walk of life you choose to be in. And if I do that and accept that as a given, and be curious and learn. I mean, it used to be that in order to learn, you always had to go to a class or go to a library or what have you. Now you can sit in front of the screens that we're on, go to Google and, AI, and you can sign into libraries, read all the articles and books that you want in real time to reinvent yourself, to understand what the possibilities are. And if we have this mindset of it's possible, nobody ran the 100-yard dash until under 9 seconds, until somebody ran the 100-yard dash under 9 seconds. And then after one person did it, other people said it's possible. So we have to have this mindset of possibility thinking that, simply because no one else has done it doesn't mean that I can't. Simply because no one has ever achieved this doesn't mean that I cannot achieve it. At one point in time, nobody had ever gone to the moon. At one point in time, we had never sent a spaceship to Mars. Yeah, at one point in time, we didn't have the Hubble telescope that could literally look down and read the year of a dime sitting on the sidewalk. But somebody said it's possible. So when it comes to ourselves and our personal brand and the possibilities of what we can do when we think about reinvention, instead of saying to yourselves, well, I don't know if I'm capable of doing that, I would challenge each and every person to say, it's possible. It's possible for me to realize my dream. The chair that you're sitting in and the chair that I'm sitting in, at some point in time, it didn't exist. But one day somebody came up with this idea, said, I'm tired of sitting on these rocks and branches or what have you. I'm going to create something called a chair. And people laughed at them. Now everybody's sitting on a chair. Glenn, 15 plus years ago, if I had told you somebody would come up with this idea of an electric car with no dealer network, really no factories, and that they would take 400,000 orders with $1,000 deposits and create, the world's largest EV automaker, that is Tesla, you would have laughed at me. Now look at Elon Musk and Tesla today. Okay. And by the way, when he started selling cars online, he was able to do it because of the way that his cars were built. The old model with GM, Ford, Chrysler, and the other automakers, it was literally against the law to sell a car online. You had to go through a dealership. But because of the way that his cars were constructed, he was the only automaker who could take car orders online. Now, of course, the laws have now changed, but he skated to where he thought the hockey puck would be. And now the rest of the automakers are trying to keep up.
That is a beautiful example, which really takes us to the third ingredient, which is be confident in your skills. In other words, Elon Musk knew what gave him distinction in the cars that he was building.
That's right.
But as an individual, you need to be confident in your skills. And this goes back to knowing yourself. And here may be a shocking statistic that, again, my organization, through its recent research, discovered that only 36% of managers know something about themselves without knowing it. And so here's the question. What do you know about yourself without knowing it? And In fact, let me ask you this question. What do you know? What do you know about yourself without knowing it, Robert?
I know about myself without knowing it that um, anything is possible.
Okay, you see right there. But think about the 64% of people that couldn't answer that question.
Yeah.
This is concerning.
It's
Why? And it's interesting because when you go back to those people who couldn't respond, you share,
so
you can share. Go ahead, Robert. Go ahead.
let me tell you why they couldn't respond. Because most of them, and you will appreciate this, Glenn, they still have that standardized mindset. I mean, in a mechanistic economy, to do mechanistic work. That is, tell me what it is you want me to do, and I will learn repetition, 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 and that's how I'll get the work done. So in a standardized economy and with a standardized mindset, I don't have to think about what I know about myself without
Knowing it. Yeah.
because the system, the quote unquote system, is telling me that, and I'm relying upon the system. So people just fall into that. But personalization requires me to be in the mindset. And I talk about skill set and mindset. And skill set, that part is a given. We don't have to talk about that. But it is this mindset that has to evolve and change, and it has to be in the pursuit of what are the things that I can do better? What are the things that I know about myself without knowing, without even having to ask the question? I have to have that mindset that I have to be in the pursuit, Glenn, of personalization at all times.
Well, this takes us to number 4. You're on fire, by the way. You're fantastic, Robert. Perform at a premium level. I mean, think about that. Back to the standardization economy. When you've been highly standardized and you don't even know who you are, let alone anything else around you, because you're just waiting for someone to tell you what to do inside the box you're given. What does it mean to perform at a premium level? It means what they tell you is a premium level. Well,
that's
last
limiting.
I checked, well, it's very limiting.
Yeah.
And it also explains why we are operating at a very mediocre level. Because at a time where the economy needs us to know who we are, be confident with our skills, and maintain an all-encompassing will and act by following our curiosity to seek out precise answers, how can we perform at a premium level? So what does it mean in our pursuit to perform at a premium level? Is consistency a part of that?
Consistency is a part of it, but it's also constantly asking yourself what's next and how can I become better? How can, in my pursuit of excellence, no matter what I'm doing, how can I do it better? Yeah, and in doing it better and trying to being in this pursuit of discovery and excellence and what have you, it gives me the opportunity to explore areas that I never ever would have thought about exploring, but because I'm in the pursuit of, and I have this curiosity because of my mindset again, it puts me in a place, in a space where success is possible, and success is relative for me as to how I define it. I can't let an organization or any other individual define success for me. So if we're in this constant pursuit of excellence and this constant pursuit of trying to make ourselves better, we become emboldened because what do we learn? That there's a lot out there that we don't know. And if I remain my authentic self, then I am honest enough with myself to understand there are things that I just don't know. And I think as a leader, knowing what you don't know and surrounding yourself with people that complement that is part of what makes organizations stronger. I think it's so important for each and every one of us on a daily basis to ask ourselves, how can I get better? What can I do better? When I fail, what was the object lesson? What did I learn from that? I mean, some of the best things I ever learned weren't from my successes, but from my failures.
Well, and this is why this now takes us to number 5. It's about getting down to work eagerly. And I think this is one of the many things that have brought us closer and closer together, Robert, is that we see the opportunity. We see the changing economy. We see the importance of personalization and for people to be self-directed in their reinvention. But let's face it, this is hard work. And if you're going to pursue anything, you got to get down to work eagerly.
That's
Why
right.
is that so important?
You have to get down to work eagerly because in this new world of work, what we're really talking about in part is the democratization of our labor force, where employees have the power because these personalized experiences, or this personalization, if you will, if we embrace it, we are the commodity. We are the commodity for the organization and for the company. And because human capital does not appear on the balance sheet, companies are losing out. And that's why you see this churn within companies of people constantly changing jobs, because they understand that they have the value. And if I'm not allowed to explore personalization in my workplace, I can go someplace else where they will allow me to do that. And because I continuously add value, because I have the mindset and the skill set to be in the pursuit of excellence, because I have the learning agility, the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn as a steady state, because I have the mindset to add and create value in all that I do. And I think that we have to be emboldened as individuals who are part of organizations to have that mindset. And organizations, by the same token, when we think about personalization as it relates to our labor force, we have to find comfort in the organization operating in an organic way, sure, with certain parameters and strategy and desired outcomes. But we have to be able to live with the ambiguity of and the organic nature of how we get work done, how we manage, and how we lead.
Well, Robert, look, this has been a tremendous discussion. I greatly appreciate your insights, your wisdom, just your passion and drive to deliver a message that is so important, not just to our labor force, not just to the economy, but to humanity. I mean, I'm sure that there are some people, and I just want to give, a shout out to those that may have heard this and says, well, what does this all mean? Because I understand that some of this might sound a little bit ambiguous to people because it's forcing us as individuals to look at ourselves in the mirror and roll up our sleeves and get the work done. We've been following playbooks that have been outdated for years, and now it's us as individuals that have to create our own playbooks so that ambiguity becomes our best friend.
That's right. We have to embrace ambiguity. We have to have a great sense of humanity and understand our role in a global society, and that is we're all part of something bigger than ourselves. I tell our students and our faculty and staff all the time, on a planet with 8.3 billion people, those of us who have at least a college degree, that we represent about 6.3% of the global population. By having a baccalaureate degree. So therefore, we're privileged whether we like it or not, and we have a social responsibility to leave the world better than we found it. We don't get a choice because we're a voice for those who have no voice. We're the hope for those who are hopeless. It's up to us to take on the gospel of personalization and learning agility and having this mindset to become better as individuals, as organizations, because at the end of the day, each and every one of us, we're serving all of humanity. And if each one will reach one, then the world will become a better place.
Robert, thank you, my dear friend. I care a lot about you, and thank you for the contributions that you make on a daily basis, not just in higher education, but to the future of this world and the trajectory in which it needs to go. So with that, thank you so much, Robert. And as we end every show, when you lead in the age of personalization, you will see things that others don't. Do what others won't, and keep pushing when prudence says quit. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Personalization Outbreak. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a show. If you enjoyed the content, visit ageofpersonalization.com to check out our free streaming video series and learn how to get involved in the movement. I'm Glenn Llopis. I wish you a good day, and remember, without strategy, change is merely substitution, not evolution.